Hello, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on the channel. We're coming on Zoom. Okay. We are doing flops today. And we are trying something slightly different. So typically we do tops and flops in one video. And this time we are doing flops on my channel. The 3 floppy books on the things that didn't work out for us in our reading month on this channel, and the tops are going to be on Fraser's channel. So I'm going to leave a link to that down below and check out the winning reads of this month on your channel. Okay, so that was my preamble. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing really well, doing really well.
I am excited to talk about books that didn't work for me. And we're gonna work our ways at cross purposes, right? Like I'm
Yes.
going least favorite and you're going the opposite.
Mediocre. So I'm going to be working my way up to my least favorite, and you're going to be starting with your least favorite and then backing off.
Yes.
Just to make things really confusing for everybody.
It's not confusing. I trust you, viewers.
Yeah. Oh, so maybe I don't trust our audience. Keep track.
It's not a slight, Shelly.
Okay.
So okay. You start.
Okay, I start. Okay, the one that was the least floppy for me was Possession by A.S. Byatt, which you and I read together with Jack at the Rambling Raconteur. Mm-hmm. And I feel kind of bad because this is one of Jack's favorite books, and I could see why, but there were some things that didn't work out for me. Yeah, is this a surprise to you that it made the list?
It is not.
Wait, you're not starting with your most floppy?
No, but if we're going to talk about it, why don't we both talk about it at the same time?
Okay, that sounds good. That sounds good.
Yeah, this is my middle shitty book.
Okay. Okay. Do you want to start as to why it didn't work for you?
No, you're the one talking about it. You go first.
Oh, well, it would have gotten to you. Okay. Okay. So this is about two Victorian postgraduate students, or 2 people working in the field of academia that are paying attention to Victorian literature, and they're specializing in Victorian literature. Obviously, I haven't thought about this book since I read it because I can't even summarize it well. Okay, and what they do is they find some letters that are from 2 poets in the Victorian era that are stand-ins for I forget, Christina Rossetti and someone else, Robert Browning.
I think Browning,
yeah, Robert Browning. And so these letters, there's like a dual kind of timeline that you're following, or dual narratives that you're following, one of which is the relationship between the professors, and the other one is the relationship between the poets. And okay, so I liked some of this, but it got to the point where I feel like she needed to be in on the joke that she is a pretentious bee. Right? I just needed her to acknowledge that she is kind of snooty.
Yeah.
And I think that if she would have just started joking around about that, or if there were little quips about her being uptight or pretentious or highbrow, I think I would have relaxed a little bit and been like, okay, you get the fact that you're kind of snooty. But because she didn't do that, I felt like, especially near the end, I was like, you take yourself so seriously, A.S. Byatt. And at that point, I was just like, I can't, like, I just need a little, like, I need you to loosen up just a tiny bit. And she didn't do it. And I think for a lot of people, that this book works for them because of that, because she's so articulate and well researched, and just playing around with Victorian lit in a whole bunch of different forms. But at some point I was just like, I just need you to kind of like break the pretension and come down to earth where we all are at. So why didn't this book work for you?
So I really liked about the first half when it was still more mysterious to me what was going on. The source documents were still fairly interesting to consume, even though I don't really read Victorian lit, especially poetry. It was still like an interesting conceit, but it began to wear on, and then it became very contrived and very predictable. And I especially did not like that every single, even tertiary character became embroiled in one of the main plots to a very contrived degree, where I was just like, okay, this is just reductive and annoying. And I didn't like the ending. And it became a little bit tiresome to continue to consume those documents, which are, yeah, they're just proliferated throughout to a wildly long degree. And it is very commendable that she's able to like ape that structure and those people. It's
because
very
that's the driving interest, I think, in this novel, is that she recreated diaries, letters, poetry, short fiction that replicates Victorian style, which is incredibly impressive. But at some point it becomes less impressive and more tedious.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So I didn't hate it, but it was definitely something that I expected to like, especially coming from like House of Leaves and other things that do something like this. It should have, tickled my brain more than it did, but it did not.
Okay. So that's your middle book. So if we're working backward, then what's the worst?
Do you want to guess?
Is it the one where we kept on swapping the pronunciation of the name?
I don't think so. That doesn't ring a bell.
Babel Tower.
Oh no. No.
Okay.
It's not that.
Oh, where the red fern grows.
No.
Okay. Then tell me. Oh gosh.
I've grown to despise this book because I keep trying to get into it and it's just terrible. I'm sorry. It's terrible. It's terrible. I don't understand why people like this. So this is about...
We read this together also, but I
Yes.
listened to the same amount that you read, pretty much.
Yeah, we
go ahead, Bo.
at the same point. This is about a 17-year-old with a codependent brother who is not working but wants to be on the come up. He thinks he's going to be the next rap star, so he doesn't work. They are behind on rent. Rent is being raised. It takes place in Oakland, I believe. And I got to the point in which it's not a spoiler because it's on the synopsis. I don't even think we made it through the synopsis. She's at a bar, she's drinking, and suddenly this turns into a sexual encounter that becomes a transaction. This gives her the notion that she can do this as a way and means of making money because her brother obviously is not going to pull his weight. And I got up to the point in which she meets a sort of hooker with a heart of gold type person who gives her a whole bunch of mentoring, I guess, about
on the street walking tips on
how to
be a
protect
street
yourself
walker
and stuff. And she does her first trick, and that's about where I was like, okay, I'm out. Not because of the plot. I think the plot is reasonably on paper. If you were putting out the plot beats, it works. And the prose work, had it been refined, would have been okay as well. But there are certain writing tics that I think come from being of that age that are just it's so predominant. I cannot get past it. The most hardest to get through is the similes, which are just terrible and an onslaught. They do not stop. She just pops similes all the time. Usually they add absolutely nothing to the sentence. They're not even juxtaposing anything. It's usually just a reiteration of what is occurring. It's not interesting. Everything is so melodramatic that it normalizes all of the tension that should be there, as well as the relationships. The dialogue is fine, but not great. Like, it's just, it reads like a first draft by a young author, basically. And I think instead of doing the work to edit it and make it something really great, they decided to market it as the thing that it is, because they thought that maybe people would want to write a 17-year-old's novel, and there's some cachet in that, I think. I mean, it's still very impressive that she wrote the book, and it still has some strengths, but there are certain pet peeves that I've learned that I have that this brought this out. I was like, do I really hate similes that much when they're not done well? Yes. Especially when it's every sentence. There's also, her brother has a fingerprint tattoo, and she would not shut up about the fingerprint tattoo. Every time he did anything, it was in relation to the fingerprint tattoo. And I was just like, what is happening? Why is it overwritten about these stupid parts and underwritten about plot beats that are very important? So it just feels, yeah, it feels like a debut and undercooked, underbaked, whatever euphemism you want to use, really.
Bad. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I didn't know that it continued to grow in disgust in your mind. Like the disgust. I know. Oh man. Okay. My next one is also a Booker read. So even though I DNF Nightcrawling, I was including ones that I finished just to give him a fighting chance for me. And so the next one was After Sappho, yeah, by Shelby Wynn Schwartz. Like, how do I even talk about this? Okay, so this is a very fragmented, actually, you and I did a whole review on this book on your channel. And this is essentially taking the fragments of Sappho and prominent lesbians throughout history and essentially trying to give both a voice. The thing is that it was too meandering, too character unfocused. Like, it was just not, but then it was also unfocused on plot. And so the whole thing was like, the reader, I think, was supposed to be invested in the conceit of the story, yet there was not a lot to grab onto. And so what didn't work for me was that I kept, like, every time we picked this up, like, I would like rework on like, okay, I think it's gonna work. Like, I think it's going somewhere. I think it's gonna do something soon, and things are gonna come together, and like, I'm going to feel some tension, and it never ever happened. It just never took off at all for me. And then when it's like, when you get to the end, because there's no tension, it almost just is like a slow fizzle out. And it, so yeah, I was bummed, because not only was I excited about it, but even as I was reading, I kept on like resetting my expectations, like maybe now something will happen. And it was like, by the last day, I think I told you, I'm gonna finish it off, I'm gonna polish it off, and I did. And I didn't really think it did a whole lot, especially for me. It's gonna be forgettable. So
it's hard on your thumbs too. The binding is terrible.
Oh yeah, the binding is rough. So to get inside, and like, I didn't want to, now I'm like, I don't want to break the spine, but yeah, you'd have to like really get in there. So yeah, I'll probably sell this to my used bookstore. So yeah, or a little free library will get this for whoever wants to read it.
Yeah, you can be like, this is from the UK, limited. You'll never get it without me. I want to make a profit on this. What can you do?
I know, right? Even though I hated it. Yeah. Okay, so what was your least terrible of the terrible books in this month? Oh, I did guess it, but not as the most terrible.
Just misplaced on the list.
Yeah.
So Babel right? That's how you say it? Yeah.
I always say Babel.
Oh, Babel. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So, um, this is not, I think, a really bad book. It was just a little bit disappointing because of the hype train that it was riding, basically. It does, in many ways, fulfill the promise of what it sets out to do, which is, it is, oh, interestingly, it only says an arcane history, but on the actual like title, it's a very long academic thing. It's like on the use of violence in the translators, Oxford translators uprising or revolution or something like, and that's exactly what it is. It is ostensibly an academic text, but not really. It's like accessible commercial fiction writing. That's just a conceit. About a cohort that enter Oxford, three of whom are people of color. One is a white woman, and they are at the translators. This is like a fictional building in Oxford for the translators because there is a magic system in this book in which it is tied to silver bars. And the magic system is when you etch on a match pair of two different languages, the dissonance created between the translation is generated as an effect of magic. So whatever is goes unsaid basically is the magnified effect. And in order to invoke the words, the person who is using the bar has to really understand and is like fluent in those two languages. And so in this time period, I think it's like 1830. I want to, something like that. They are sort of like running out of classic languages, and where it's at in the colonies is India, China, South Asia, and stuff like that. They need to use and get students from those areas to make a greater effect because there's less cultural bleed basically in those languages, and so more effect in the magic basically. And
Oh.
so it's really about colonialism, and it's about academia, and it's basically how this revolution comes to pass from that cohort, predominantly from the figure of Robin, who was born in China and is the main sort of protagonist of the story, I guess. And what all happens from that. And from the ending, it seems like it might be a series eventually. I'm not sure. Like it's kind of open-ended, maybe, maybe not type situation. But the problem is that for me, it's quite a long book. It's 560 pages ish, and the character work is just like not quite there for me. Because they're all ideologues, and she has an agenda where she's talking about colonialism and intricate ways in which language works to proliferate and be the extension, the arm of Britain and what it is doing at that time with the colonies in this fantastical land, but also in a real world sense with the freedom of the framing that she's done for the story. It never quite feels all that real because they're ideologues that are clashing political ideas rather than feeling like actual human beings sometimes, which is ironic given what she's trying to critique. And so yeah, it felt a little bit flat, even though it is like the exact wording of the subtitle of this book is exactly what it is doing, and it does that thing fairly well. It just feels like a little bit like you see the strings and the puppeteer kind of showing their hand or whatever too much.
Yeah, it's like it's like you kind of want to discover like some of the themes, but instead they're just like, and this is what's happening, and you can kind of see it all.
It's
Yeah.
very heavy-handed, and because it's omniscient, or it's in the mind of Robin at least, and it is so solipsistic and so finger on the scale, and so like this is what you should be thinking about colonialism and violence and all of these things, because this is what Robin thinks, and he's single-minded about these things, that you're just
Right.
kind of like, yeah, I'm not finding out the themes, I'm just being told them.
Ah, okay. Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. And I know that it was a really hyped book for you, so I'm sure it just fell from grace because of that as well. So, yeah.
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 I still gave it
Oh.
4 stars, like barely 3.5 rounded up. But yeah, I was like kind of hoping for a 5-star book.
Oh, so it lost on disappointing you. Yeah. All right. Do you want to guess my last book? My worst book?
It's actually hard because you have a few that you could be choosing from. So
What?
I don't know. I want to say Red Fern.
No, no. Actually,
Oh.
I know,
We
but
should have
no.
had it.
I know. Well,
Honorary mention Redfern blows.
no. Okay. You're gonna get us kicked off the internet. Well, this is good. I feel like this is so well loved on BookTube, and I feel really bad for talking about it. This Tenderland by William Kent Kreuger.
Yeah. So,
Oh.
why did you hate that book, Shelly?
Oh my gosh. Okay. I did this as a buddy read with Kim at middle of the book march, and Kim provided far more entertaining commentary and conversation than this book did. Okay. So go to Kim's channel because she's amazing. Here's the deal. So this kid, Odie, is at an Indian training school, and it's not good there. And he wants to get away, essentially. And and I thought going in that this was going to be a very literary read, like literary fiction, and it's not. So before you make the mistake that I made, this is commercial fiction with some nice language embedded in it. So the thing is that I was really invested in this idea of like being a training, like one of these indigenous training schools, or and understanding that history a bit more and like diving into that. We didn't get that. Pretty immediately, he and some friends pop into a boat and start going downriver. And it's very Huck Finney, like in that way, Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain. And they go on an adventure. So I was like, okay, I'm not invested in the training school anymore. I'm going to get invested in Odie's struggle, which is very existential. He's like, what is God? What does God mean to all of us? And I was like, all right, I hope he arrives. Well, then that gets dropped. And it ends up being like super, super, super plotty at the end, to the point where I was like, I wouldn't have even been able to guess. I wouldn't have even been able to, in my wildest dreams, figure out the end of this book because it was just like, and we're going to twist and turn and twist and turn. And then we're going to be in a pretzel and then undo the pretzel. And then that's the end. And I was just like, I don't understand. And so I found out that William Kent Kreuger is a thriller writer. And so if you were a thriller reader looking to get into commercial fiction, coming of age commercial fiction, start here. If you were like me and you're kind of a literary fiction bee that also happens to love Bildungsroman Roman coming of age stories with a fierce passion, stay away from this because it will disappoint you. It will break your heart with disappointment times 10. So yeah, no more. I can't. This is everything I dislike in a book.
I thought you were prepared. Yeah, I
No,
didn't realize you were expecting a literary experience.
I told you that, didn't I?
I don't think so, because I would have been like, don't do that.
Well, no, I told you, and then you were like, no, it's really not a literary experience. And then I was like, oh, okay, then I'm just gonna go with it. But then I was like, I'm gonna get invested in this part of our main character struggle. And then that part doesn't ever really get, it's like then it ends up not being about that. So then I'm like, what is this book? Except for that it's a plot. And I don't like, plot to me is like take it or leave it. So yeah. Yeah, sorry. I feel really bad. So put that down,
Yeah.
and that's it.
That's it. Yeah. Except for the honorary mention of me really disliking where the red fern grows.
Yeah, I'm shocked that you didn't put it in. I'm shocked that you know what? I found out. So I was reading it and I was not having the experience that I was hoping, which is I thought I would love the book and then it just ended up being all right for me. But I also remember that I've seen the movie. Like I know the plot of this book. I know what happened in the end. And I think I wasn't really calculating what I know about that book already and the experiences that I could bring. I mean, I really could have told you like generally what things were and just sort of fill in the rest. And so I was just, for me, it was just like, I don't know why I thought I was going to be in this land of new freshness. So once I sort of figured that out, I was like, I really think I went in pretty not okay. Like I really should have been like, I know this story and I'm going in to just fill out some of the blurry details.
Yeah. For me, I was like, this story is really steeped in male heteronormative gender roles, and I just don't care at all. So
Yeah.
I gave it a shot and then I left.
Oh yeah, you DNF'd it.
Yeah, so that's why it wasn't. I mean, I DNF'd Nightcrawling too, but the writing wasn't so bad in Red Fern. It was just more like I couldn't accept the central conceit, whereas with Nightcrawling, I attempted to do that. So that's why.
Yeah, it's true. All right, well, those are our flops. We're gonna actually go and record our tops right now. So
Yeah.
go over and watch that on Fraser's channel and see what actually worked for us this month. So
Catch you on the flip side.
yeah. Okay. Bye.
Bye.